Welcome to Gaia. We are delighted to have you join us in our mission to empower a global, conscious community. Whether you're joining us live or watching the replay, every piece of content we share is created with the intention to awaken the potential within all of us. And a very special shout out to our Gaia members. Thank you. Your support makes this community and everything we do possible. If you're not yet a member, we'd love for you to join us. There's a whole world of wisdom waiting for you.
The moment you start feeling abundant, you're generating wealth.
Our work here is to become conscious.
A global community based in higher states of consciousness.
Healing can happen that fast.
New discoveries are now confirming what we find in some of our most ancient and spiritual traditions.
Stuff does just keep on getting older.
That's one of the beautiful things about Gaia Plus is that you're going to find people that resonate with you and that inspires you.
I'm going to help you attract a loving partner.
Nothing can stop the manifestation.
Every single person is God wrapped in physical form.
I'd love to bring the science and the spirituality together.
This is an incredible time to be alive.
The moment you start feeling whole, your healing begins. You just follow the formula.
Our work here is not to become spiritual, it's to become conscious. Every single person is God wrapped in physical form.
You cannot have an aligned state of doing without an aligned state of being.
I would say that manifesting is you consciously creating a life that you love.
I'll start with explaining what life force is.
So we're going to do this through experience, so you feel shifts in consciousness now, and you take it home with you.
We are in a very unique moment to begin again.
The nature of our relationships and how we choose them is going to be changing.
I'd love to bring the science and spirituality together and see what we can do with our wonderful brains.
Well, we're going to do some movement practice today and spiritualize our bodies.
Everyone is amazing. I get to explore all these speakers and all these lessons.
Coming to Gaia Plus, you find your own people, your own tribe.
Consider yourself part of the Gaia family from this moment forward.
When we learn to be grateful, it changes everything.
We can transform pain into power.
We can be the change that we wish to see in the world.
You can heal and you can restore your brain and your body.
The body heals itself in the environment you give it.
And we are here to come to a deeper understanding of what real healing is all about.
Miracles truly do happen.
Laughter is truly the best medicine.
And when you feel the sensations and you get real with yourself, that's when you can start to heal.
Healing is our nature. It is our nature to be well and healthy. And the science is telling us this. We must become the world that we choose to see.
This is what the future human feels like. This is what the future human sees. This is what the future human knows. Everything you're going to learn is about ways to trigger the wisdom that is already latent inside us.
My analytical brain eats this up.
Open yourself up and allow the magic of epiphanies to drop in. There's a key right now overhead from the sun that corresponds to today. They're archetypes, they're touchstones for a journey rather than this is you. You can't map an eternal being. This is real and gutsy, gritty work. It's a living field of wisdom, ultimately to bring about collective consciousness. And we are that collective consciousness, that intelligence of that future human that lives in every one of us. When you enter into that world of the soul, a whole new world awakens inside you.
You are alive during the most profound shift in the planet's history.
You are a gift to humankind.
There is an infinite multitude of ways to experience existence itself. You are always shifting, you are always changing. Change is the only constant.
The things you are afraid of cannot harm you because there is nothing to fear. You are invincible.
The next level of your evolution is coming to a higher state of consciousness.
When you love yourself enough, miracles happen. You are powerful.
Are there latent systems in your brain that could alter the way you see the world forever?
We can start to explore expanding our consciousness,
unlocking the deepest mysteries of our human potential.
New discoveries have overturned 150 years of scientific thinking when it comes to us, to you and me, and the way we think. How can we thrive?
If we can get all those systems in sync, then we have better health, better wellness, and better connections and feelings with ourselves.
Water is the fundamental element of life and is the telephone to the universe.
This is actually the perfect opportunity for a mass awakening.
We're writing a new story right now. We have to, because the evidence no longer supports the story of the past. This is where our new story begins.
These are the times that we've been waiting for. These are the times of great transformation.
The world is now on the brink of change as we enter a new age that we'll be discovering and working on together.
I remember everything about our mother civilization through the stories of my grandfather.
It's time to wake people up to this deeper history and also our deeper connection with something beyond this world.
You have more energy in your energy field to be able to override the frequency that's creating the illness.
Our job, as I see it, while we're here, is to wake up.
It's not just about having the information, it's about directly experiencing it so that I can create the life I really want to live.
We had one person significantly change their telomere length within 4 days. And that is a quantum phenomenon. People are having instantaneous change in their health during a meditation. And when they change their energy, they change their life. After doing meditation twice a day, take a look at that change. All that green represents they changed their brain by thought alone. You have the ability to change your gene expression. We're not hardwired to be a certain way for the rest of our lives, and we're not doomed by our genes. In fact, we are marvels of change. I'm going to show you how to rewire your brain and show you the latest data that supports my work, that your thoughts can have an effect on your brain, your body, and your life. I'm Dr. Joe Dispenza, and our research proves that when you change, everything changes around
you. At the deepest level, everything and everyone are one.
Very important question. What is our potential as humans? The short answer is it's infinite.
The big question of this ancient mind-body problem is, how do you turn the waters of the brain into the wine of our conscious experience?
This whole division between science and spirituality is kind of unique to Western culture. As I went deeper and deeper, I wasn't really satisfied with the answer until I started to go into the world of quantum physics.
This journey starts in the only place that it can. This journey starts with you, right here, right now.
problem is that we cannot birth the new with the paradigms of the old. The prophecies of the Americas talk about the coming of a new human and of a new age, a new era. The first thing that I needed to heal was my sense of feeling unworthy. Modern medicine thinks that we are a collection of organs and that you can treat them separately, and you forget that this is a miraculous human being that you're working with. There's a difference between information and wisdom. That information is knowing that water is H2O, but wisdom is being able to make it rain.
Ultimately, gratitude is a way of life.
We don't know how we got here, we don't know why we're here, and we don't know where we're going.
We bless our food, we bless our house, we bless our friendships.
The journey is into oneself and into the meaning of being.
We are slowly coming to realize we are all human and getting more in touch with our kinship.
It's about how to become a better human being, a better human being.
I see gratitude as a route to a happy life.
See, there are things that I've yet to do, and there are mountains I want to move, but I am right here, right now, and it's beautiful.
Let the gratefulness overflow into blessing all around you.
Consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe.
The voices of plants that the shamans have listened to for millennia, we can record them now in a lab with a laser.
Psilocybin experiences look like experiences that have been reported over the ages by mystics.
I think you can explain the strange aspect of consciousness using physical, natural laws. You have to extend what we know about the universe. It cannot just be reduced to my neurons in my brain.
Plants are not only able to detect sounds from their environment, but would also produce their own sounds.
There's this existential wonder about what's really going on here.
For me, the work with psychedelic plants is a moment of communion with the infinite.
We're finding all of these ways that sound is starting to pop up in medicine. How is it possible that something so important was forgotten by almost the entire planet?
The question is, how does sound heal and transform?
These are real effects. They're real medical effects, and they can be measured.
As Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, vibration.
Frequency plus intent equals healing.
Healing is ultimately about reconnecting with the life force of who we are. So the path of healing and the path of spiritual liberation are truly one and the same.
Almost universally, ancient texts and traditions have always placed sound at the core of not only our existence, but the existence of the entire universe.
For example, in ancient Egypt, there was Ptah, the god of technology, who went into his heart and felt the world and then spoke it into existence.
Many megalithic sites, including pyramids and stone circles, are deliberately located on Earth energy lines or at nodal points of this global Earth frequency grid.
They had sound technology to create an anti-gravity field or some kind of magnetic resonance to build these temples and these megaliths.
Free energy technologies are encoded within those megalithic temples. Also, ways in which we can live in a manner that is more harmonious with the earth and will enable us to create, ultimately, a sustainable civilization. That's our quest and that's our goal.
What the science is showing us is the universe appears to be alive, it appears to be conscious.
Near-death experiences are some of the strongest evidence we have that there is life after death.
Peer-reviewed research shows that human consciousness can affect physical matter.
As a group, when we do intention, we create a psychic internet.
There is this universal divine force that guides all of us.
There is actually a lot of scientific work showing how sound can heal.
DMT is likely a portal to another dimension.
Nature has a consciousness.
That inner universe within us connects with the greater universe of the stars.
New discoveries are now confirming what we find in some of our most ancient and cherished and spiritual traditions.
When I weighed 300 pounds, I made a sacred commitment that I was going to lose the weight. I went to the gym 6 days a week, 90 minutes a day. 45 minutes of weights, 45 minutes of cardio, cut my calories, I cut my fat, and at the end of 18 months of this, 702 hours in the gym, I still had a 46-inch waist, I was still fat, and I could max out most of the machines. As I'm recording this, I have exceptionally strong bones, and I'm lean and very muscular, but not hypermuscular. 20 minutes a week is my exercise routine, using all of the hacks in here. How could I go from weighing 300 pounds down to 8.6% body fat? It turns out it wasn't from the exercise, it was from nutrition. If I could do this as a 300-pound computer hacker who couldn't touch his toes, who had 3 knee surgeries before age 25, and I can do this on 20 minutes of exercise a week, imagine what would happen if you learned a little bit more about how to eat and you spent less time at the gym than you do now with the right tools. If you combine nutrition with fitness, magic can happen. What would happen if you had more energy and you had more results at the same time? Today, the world needs people who are healthy, high energy, strong, with time on their hands to do good work. That's you.
People today need to come back to nature in all aspects of your daily life.
Modern cosmetics have made a shift from using plastic microbeads to minerals.
We're entering this new period of rediscovery that can allow us to use this ancient knowledge here in the information age.
Learn how you can incorporate this ancient practice in your modern life.
The minerals that make crystals up are also part of our own body.
From the technology we use to the ancient healing practices it affords us, discover the power and potential of crystals.
Even our own DNA is a form of a liquid crystal. So we are intimately connected with crystals.
Crystals are a tool for us to become the best version of ourselves.
Crystals, only on Gaia.
There will be some sort of a split in realities. Understand that that prime creator source in which everything comes from is something that exists within each and every single one of us.
What happens to a non-believer, a skeptic?
Everybody goes through the same progression of their soul. You're going to keep reincarnating in the same realm until you learn the lessons of that realm.
There's an attachment to an identity that they believe they cannot shift. We choose the identity that we desire.
Until you move the ego aside, you can't co-create with these high resonances of the universe. They can't coexist.
There's studies that suggest that autoimmune conditions can be caused by stress. Stress can affect the immune system.
Did you have the stigmata?
My hands were so bad I couldn't even use my hands.
Has the Vatican gotten involved with you?
Yeah, they've investigated me.
You cannot change what you cannot accept. Ascension is a process of human attainment. Nobody gets a free ticket.
Some believe perception defines our reality. That the only real obstacles that we experience in this world are the ones that we persistently allow ourselves to attach to and believe in. Maybe what we consider to be random is not really random at all. This season on Codex, Metatron, that great architect of this universal simulation, has left us a cipher. Metatron's cube is actually the geometric form that defines the entire universe and our perception within it. We are not trapped in this cube, this matrix of mind. Rather, we are active participants in it for our greatest good. All of it is interconnected in a sublime symphony of music and geometry. I'm Robert Grant, and this is Codex.
I became interested in what was going on, started researching the issue, which many people refer to as chemtrails.
Don't be afraid of death. Stay here as long as your sentence is, because when you get out of here, it will make sense.
I went like that, and the spoon broke.
We think that our next lives will be in the future. The Hindus call it Brahma time. All time exists simultaneously. Somewhere, your great-great-grandfather is a 2-year-old.
The technologies that are in these classified projects, quote unquote free energy, zero point or magnetic flux field generation systems that have been suppressed, if we keep all of this information secret, we're going to destroy the biosphere.
The late 40s were the same time period that the Mars Germans started planning for and building their bases on the moon as well as Mars.
Dr. Valerie Hunt was actually able to record the chakras that are, of course, in the body, and they also extend beyond the body, and determine the colors of them and the sounds of them.
I have been to other planets, other dimensions, and parallel Earths. This is not only astral travel, but this is astral time travel. I'm being placed in a different timeline of Earth.
We are incredible beings with huge potential, waiting to be awakened. We can co-create something better, rise to a higher perspective. Quantum principles underlie everything in our universe. We must recognize that we are not just physical beings. Our limitless potential comes from our spirit, not our physicality. There is no limit how much we can awaken. Dreams can be such a useful guide in our life. They can help us solve problems, receive insights and higher teachings from higher planes. Even if we aren't aware of it, we all dream. This is Mystery Teachings.
I'm Dr. Joe Dispenza. I want to invite you into a journey of your mind, your heart, and your body. You are your own genetic engineer, and how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. There's energy to heal. There's energy for growth and repair. In order for people to truly begin to make significant changes in their life, they have to get beyond the memory of themselves. If we're going to create something new in our life, we have to crave the unknown. Move past the pain of yesterday into the joy of a new future. You are the vortex to your creation. When you change, everything changes around you.
There were secret societies that were involved in founding this country. Who were they, and what were they trying to do? It's on the American dollar bill, New World Order. It's based on the ancient Egyptian concept of government, finance, law, and the way the ancient Egyptians understood the world at large. That's why you have a pyramid. The truth will actually blow you away.
What if you could reshape your reality using the power of your mind, energy, and intention? Learn to activate your chakras, harness life force energy, and unlock your highest potential with transformative practices. You'll learn how to protect yourself from predictive programming and discover how mastering your energy can shift you from fear-based realities into a world of abundance and spiritual freedom. This isn't just theory. It's a step-by-step guide to spiritual sovereignty, empowering you to align your mind, body, and soul to create a purposeful, abundant life. Ready to awaken to the reality you deserve? Let's break through the veil and step into your true power.
Our soul is evolving right now.
Life-changing conversations.
We may be far greater than we can even perceive.
Exploring humanity's deepest mysteries.
There's a new human story that's emerging that changes everything.
And tools for your personal growth.
We should never underestimate the significance and potential of humans.
Energy goes back and forth both ways. Communication goes both ways.
I love that. That's a great way to go about it.
Hundreds of episodes designed to help you find your truth.
Join me as I sit with the world's top researchers, teachers, scientists, and authors to uncover leading-edge insights you won't get anywhere else.
Open Minds with Regina Meredith. Only on Gaia.
This is about the real Shakespeare. Here's something we were never taught. The greatest writer in history never wrote a letter to anyone. Not so much as a note has ever been found. I discovered the most important cryptographic key to solving the whole Shakespeare puzzle. I had identified the actual physical location where Shakespeare had left the truth of who he really was and why there had been a cover-up.
Have you ever wondered what you're truly capable of? The kind of power and potential that exists dormant within? Is it a mystery to you how you fit into this crazy world and what you can do to influence it? Well, get ready as we embark on a journey of incredible self-discovery, for the road less traveled, for the key to unlocking our hidden potential. Welcome to Limitless.
We've opened the door to one of the greatest mysteries of our existence. What is in what we call the empty space of the universe? My name's Greg Braden, and I'd like to welcome you to the divine matrix, bridging time, space, miracles, and belief. Almost universally, ancient texts and indigenous traditions describe a field of energy that connects all things. The field, the web, the net, the divine matrix, it is the release of energy itself. We have within us the ability to interact with the force that fills the empty space of the universe. Not only are we connected through a field of energy, but we are the matrix. And it's because we're the matrix that the discoveries that describe it are describing us as well.
Neuroplasticity is the ability for your brain to change its structure.
Our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and even our beliefs have physical representations.
It is becoming clear that mind and matter are entangled, and the separation between objects and consciousness is nothing but an illusion.
This is the realm where you transcend everything separate and you begin to experience oneness.
Gaia presents Gaiasphere Event Center. Dr. Stephen Greer, UAP disclosure, and CE5 ET contact.
Hello, everybody. All right. Thank you, guys. Good to see you. Beautiful crowd. Thank you all. Thanks to the folks at Gaia and the folks I see, a lot of you I know. I want to acknowledge my good friend Michael Herrera, who's here, who has been helping a lot with what's going on with law enforcement, special forces, and government and Congress. And behind the scenes, he's become a really essential member of the team. And my dear friend Marion Kramer, we met at 19 when we were becoming meditation teachers. So we've been friends for 51 years. God bless you. And of course, Paula Harris. I think we first met almost 30 years ago when I stayed at your place in Rome and we did all those things. Must have been the late 90s or early mid-90s, yeah. So some great family here. I consider them all family, and all of you too. So we're going to do a big trip this weekend through things that are going to be a little bit of psychic whiplash, so I'll just prepare you for this. So we're going to go from a very deep dive into what's going on with disclosure, but each day we're going to also focus deeply on the science of consciousness and how essential it is that all of you become ambassadors from Earth to these people. And the reason it's becoming criticality at this point is because everything is about to tilt, everything's about to change. I don't often say this, but you should be looking for major things happening on many fronts on this planet in the next 6 months to 24 months. And humans that know how to make contact with these civilizations will be the points of coherence for bridging over to a new civilization. I'll just give you a preview on that. So it's very, very important you understand that. And so as we go through this program, we can go to the next slide. Oh, this tilts. I just want and the reason I'm going to go weave these what seem like competing things together is because you need to understand the implications of what we're doing right now. And what we're doing right now has to do with, there's a picture here of me with a member of the House Oversight Committee when I went down to Mexico City to look into this thing called the Bugasphere. B-U-G-A is how it's spelled. And it was found in an area of Colombia, South America, called Buga. It's a little town. And it's a very important development, and Congressman Burleson wanted me to take him down there. Actually, I just spoke to the outgoing mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, who wants to go down with me later this month to do some, and he's putting at his disposal some wonderful scientists and forensic folks that we would normally have access to before he leaves office on January 1st. So there's a great deal of interest in this, and also at the national security level with the U.S. executive branch and FBI and others that are very interested in this, because we have concluded that it most certainly is not a recently built device, and we'll get into all those details. But I wanted you to also know that our whistleblowers that we have a number of new ones. Of course, you know Michael Herrera, but there's some others that have come forward that we're going to summarize. And then we're going to also talk about what's going on with law enforcement efforts. So that last part I'm going to tiptoe around very, very carefully because I'm the primary intel source for the U.S. government, law enforcement, and national security people who are now fully aware of the problem and are aware of the criminal organization that's been keeping all of this secret. And they are going at it very quickly and very hard, and it's very dangerous actually right now. So there are things going on even yesterday that are at a very highest level. I'll just put it that way. You can infer what you would like. That are very positive momentum going into a full accounting and disclosure of 80 years of criminal illegal secrecy. So that is happening. It's fraught, obviously. You can read between the lines how dangerous that would be. But at the same time, we have great people who are doing it, and we have a wonderful team of folks who have been Green Berets and Special Forces guys who are now working directly with us on this investigation and liaisoning with U.S. national security and U.S. law enforcement. And so it's become very serious. And those of you who are here supporting this, and those of you there last night for the fundraiser, thank you, because it's become rather expensive doing this. We are funding all of it without contracts from the government, because we will not take money from a government. We won't take money from a corporation. And so it's you guys doing it. Thank you. Yeah, it wouldn't happen without you guys. And I want to also thank Raven Navolsi. She's, if you see her here, thank her, because I would not be here without her, right? She's the person who's, along with my wife of 46 years, has kept me doing this and kept me propped up and functional at times. Not always, sometimes dysfunctional, but that's fun also, isn't it? But and has kept all this, really the support team around me going. So we have a lot of volunteers, but it's primarily a handful of people, and Raven's a key full-time person who has been with us since 1998. So she's 27 years in doing CE5 and all the work with disclosure. So, thank you, Raven. So next. So I think that just sort of some recent things. There was a recent hearing up on Capitol Hill with the House Oversight Committee. So far, they have blocked all the firsthand high-value whistleblowers. And we'll get into this in a moment. But we did submit the testimony summaries of some new ones, and they were with an overview letter that you can see here. I'm not going to read it to you. It's publicly available on our website and in our archive. And it basically gives the recommendations that I know they're trying to pursue, and that is to make it, turn it into a real investigation based on criminal conclusions, which would include subpoenas. And so we have about 50 high-value folks to be subpoenaed. There are people who, like Mr. Herrera, who will testify without a subpoena, but the vast majority of people who would be the high-value first-hand whistleblowers who have handled the craft, who have been involved in criminal activities, who have been involved in human trafficking using man-made UFOs, torture, abductions, which you guys think are alien abductions, but it's a CIA aerospace conglomerate doing it. All of that has been handed over to law enforcement, but it's also been handed over to key members of House Oversight, right, and Senate Intelligence. Now, Senate Intelligence, to my knowledge, has no plans to hold a hearing on this. The task force at the House is. So far, the primary first-hand whistleblowers have all been blocked. There has not been a substantial, there have been some minor people who were in the military who saw something, but the deep ones, the ones who have actually been in the Lockheed Skunk Works, been in the operating facilities, or who have managed the flight and the uses of man-made UFOs, which is about 80% of the ones you see are ours, by the way. All those drone things are all ours. We're going to get into this. And those operations are also embedded with other criminal activities, right? So that's where you're going to really need to have subpoenas. And since we know who the primary people are, up to and including the folks who have issued wet works orders or a targeted killing of witnesses and targeted killings of people, we have the names of some of those folks who are operational for some of the big aerospace companies. Those have been handed off to law enforcement and also to these oversight national security committees in the Congress and also the administration. So this is moving very quickly. I know I'm probably shocking some of you with this. We're out of time to pussyfoot around. So having done this for 35 years, it's now all coming to a head. Now, that's very good news. I mean, the good news is I think this is all going to come out. The bad news is It's being very carefully spun in a direction I predicted in the late 1990s to create a totalitarian military superstate that we're going to have to try to resist. Next. Now, the boogosphere, this is a very interesting critter. I didn't learn about it until this spring. It landed in March. How many people have heard of this thing? Oh, okay, almost all of you have some knowledge. So when I learned of it, I went, well, who knows, what this is. And Jaime Mousson, who I've known for many, many years, since the early 90s, invited me to come down, and I asked him if I could bring Congressman Burleson down and some of his people to look at this. And you will see that on the top of it, there are a number of symbols, right? And those have been, by two separate linguistic teams, been concluded to be a type of Proto-Sanskrit. So we're going to connect some dots this morning to what we're going to do at the last part of tonight, late. We're going to do a puja, Sanskrit, a meditation, and do contact. And then we'll break at 11, and you can go out till 3 or 4. That's what I do. Great things happen between 1 and 5 a.m. So those of you who go to bed early, get over it. What's that song from the snap out of it. Where's Cher when I need her? To give a bitch slap. No. I know, I'm terrible. You come on one of these trainings with me, and that's how it is. And I say, the babies are falling asleep. It's only 1 a.m. Anyway. I know, people are really laughing who know me. Inappropriate. Anyway, but we have fun. So that is a very interesting development, because when I first had contact and was taken on board a craft when I was 18, I think most of you know that story, if we can revisit it, for several hours, is when I created with ETs the CE5 contact, which is now in your app, all of it. And I knew that even though I had not learned, I hadn't met Marion and become a meditation teacher yet, but I had this experience, and the language and words had a lot of similarity to something I thought I had heard. And then subsequently I'd be sleeping, and my roommate in college, I just started college, would say, you're talking in a language not of this world or not used. While you're sleeping, you're in some sort of contact state. This is after I had went on board and had come back. And I don't often share this story, but why not? It's Gaia. You guys can handle strangeness, huh? We're going to get real strange here. Or as Dr. J. Allen Hynek said, high strangeness. They're strange and they're highly strange. So recently a congressional woman named Luna said to this billionaire person we know, said, Dr. Greer's a strange man. I took it as a compliment. It was meant as an insult. Don't worry, I'm hardened to all insults. But when I realized it was a type of Proto-Sanskrit, is what two separate linguistic teams concluded, these symbols. They don't look like the Sanskrit I learned to become a meditation teacher in 1974. But these linguistic experts, two teams separately, have concluded those symbols are a type of Proto-Sanskrit, and we just received last night or this morning, a translation, basically what they're saying. And I will share that with you at some point. Is it up here? Oh, I don't see it. Was it lost in here? I don't see it. Anyway, I'll need to have it. The text. Anyway, we just got this, so hopefully someone can print it out while we're doing this. So now this thing, when it landed, just so you know, it didn't just crash. It ran into a power line, and I don't know, let's see if we have a video of it. And let's watch what happens here. So it's maneuvering electrogravitically. It's heavy. It weighs 22 pounds when it's at its full normal Earth weight. 10 kilos, a little over 10 kilos, 10.112 kilos. So that's more than 22 pounds. And it was seen all over this area zipping around. And, well, at some point, I'm not sure where the clip was, This is after it hit a high voltage line, and on the bottom half of the hemisphere, there's a burn and a melted spot where it shorted this out. And because of that high voltage impact, it sort of floated down to the ground. And it didn't crash hard, so it wasn't banged up. And it landed in this brush, and the man who you see going in there to get it, we have interviewed and extensively about how that whole event unfolded. Well, he ended up putting it over to the side, because when he first picked it up, it kind of burned him. It gave some sort of electromagnetic field radiation that left sort of a burn feeling. And so he took it and put it over in some grass, which in the previous photo you saw there was a big brown area. So it was putting out some type of non-nuclear, but electromagnetic radiation. Now, initially there was a lot of hysteria about that. It was nuclear. Let me explain. There's radiations of all types, right? So if you look at the full electromagnetic spectrum, you can have ultraviolet. You go out in the sun, you'll get burned, and you can have that used as a technology. Microwaves, you all have heard microwave ovens. Well, microwaves can be pulsed, and they can cause that kind of burning of an alteration of the grass, et cetera, and so on and so forth. So it was not a nuclear, there was no Geiger counter reading on this, meaning it's a non-ionizing, and not from a nuclear source, but from some electromagnetic field radiation, which you would expect because these objects, both the ET and the man-made ones, are running on an electromagnetic field that causes at certain frequencies and rotations, a mass cancellation. Mass cancellation meaning the weight of it is reduced, right? And that's what has happened here, because when it landed, it weighed 2 kilos, now it weighs 10. It went from 2 to 6 to 10 kilos. So it went up basically more than 400 to 500% in its weight. Now, what is weight? What does that mean? The important thing, is there another slide? Yeah. So here's another. Now watch how it's moving. Now imagine this is pretty heavy. You know, if you know what a 25-pound weight at the gym feels like, this is just flying along like this. Silent, no means of propulsion, no fuel, no nuclear Geiger, and you hear it go, here it is. So 5 of these have been filmed now. Only 1 has landed. There aren't 5 that we have. There's only 1 that has landed. And they are all identical. They have they're spinning, they have an equator, they're seamless, and they have this kind of writing on the top of it. So what that means is that of the ones that are activated, only 5 have been filmed that we have the films. There may have been dozens or hundreds of these activated in that region of South America. It was very important. We'll get to this in a moment. Maybe that's where it hit the... Yeah, I think these were out of order. Okay. So let's just play all these. You see, these are all, one of these is very recent. And actually one of them was taken by someone with like a hang glider with a GoPro, and this thing comes along. That'd be cool. You're up there. I'd be down for it. Yeah, this guy, see? It's one of those hang gliders. And so this area seems to have a number of these being activated. And I think this whole phenomenon of what I'm calling the boogosphere activations. So here's one hovering in front of the trees. See it? You guys see it? Okay. I have a tiny screen, so I'm not sure. I want to be sure you guys can see it. Yeah. Here it takes off, hovers, takes off, silent. Off it goes. Sometimes they just go off at enormous speeds or dematerialize in clear air. The only reason this one got disabled is that it was curious about those power lines and went over and got zapped, and it sort of fried the circuitry. I have my reasons for why that happened. I'll mention in a minute why it did that. These are unmanned. There aren't any little people in there. So these are unmanned, remote And it's important to note that. Now, because we just got back, and we will show you the report from the University of Georgia. It's a certified carbon-14 dating lab. And Jaime and his scientific team, Jaime Mousson, asked me to do the science on this. So I said, of course I will. And we went down with some scientists to get the sampling. So just to clear up any misinformation that's been put out up there on the internet, around the equator of the boogosphere are 31 portals, little holes, 4 millimeter, tiny. And inside there's a type of resin material, like an insulating dielectric, something that's causing, it's part and parcel, I believe, of the pulsing of the electromagnetic field, so it creates the right resonant frequency. But they had, when I saw that as a doctor, I went, that material almost certainly has carbon in it. There's no carbon to carbon date in the metal sphere. You can't carbon date aluminum or titanium or whatever it is, rhodium or whatever. You can't. It's just not possible. However, anything that's organic and carbonaceous that would have carbon molecules, that you can't. So what we did was very carefully drill out, it's very hard material, out of one of those ports that had already been damaged when they were doing some other test. So we selected one of the ports that had already had some damaging of that resin material, got it out, gave it to the lab, and back comes the report. It's 12,560 years old. Now think about this for a moment. Here's the equator. See those little dots, black dots around the equator? That's where we got the resin. So people have said, on the internet, you can't carbon date metal. Well, no, you can't, but we're not idiots. You know, the internet is just trash, trash, trash. Don't Google or AI anything. You know, if it's important, you'll find it. We're putting it out. But this means that, now, assuming that that resin was put in at the same time of its creation and not later, it's at least 12,560 years old. Let me tell you what that means. First of all, there was no smelting of aluminum until after 1876, because that's when we had the technique invented and discovered for pulling aluminum out of ore, bauxite ore. Occasionally where bauxite would have been under a volcanic effect and would have melted a bunch of it, because you need a very high temperature, there would little aluminum would be found, and it was considered way more valuable than gold or platinum. Aluminum was extremely valuable. You can look this up. But, and this is 12,560 years old or older. And so the question then becomes, how was this done? Because there was no manufacturing like this, machining, and there was no aluminum. And this is 94% or so aluminum, or 5. So that's an interesting fact in and of itself. Secondly, the metallurgy that has come back, if we have that, this is the report from the University of Georgia, and you can see the date. We've just taken the scientist's name off for his own privacy because this went public. It's 12,560 years, right? So that is at the end of the last ice age. And some catastrophic geophysical event happened, perhaps a sun flare or a solar storm or some cosmic radiation that caused some sort of geophysical catastrophic event that ended the last ice age. And I think when you hear what the translation of the Proto-Sanskrit is, these all being activated is a warning. I'll just say that. It's a 3-bell warning. Now you have the metallurgy. This was done by the Southwest Research Institute, very prestigious lab in San Antonio. And it gives you the breakdown. And you can see, you know, you have about 94 to 5% aluminum, but it has all these other elements in it, and some of which I think are maybe called neodymium, and some of these weren't even discovered until the late 1800s or early 1900s. And the specific composition of this alloy doesn't match any known alloy used on Earth or created on Earth as of this date by our search. So we can't find any known alloy like this from modern human manufacture. So this is extremely important. And what it means that all these elements in here that weren't even discovered until the late 1800s and 1900s, as well as aluminum being fabricated like that, would indicate that this is something that predates any modern civilization. Now keep in mind, while the Sphinx is much older, the pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, is about 4,500 years old. This is 12,560. So it's almost 3 times older than the pyramids. And what this would indicate to me, now this is getting into my hypothesis, is that this existed at a time when either there was a type of early civilization in that part of the world that had direct contact with extraterrestrial beings and technology, or this, and created this, and having very advanced technologies, or it is from an extraterrestrial civilization, and that they have been dormant for 12,560 years. The fact that they are all suddenly becoming activated, I would say, is a leading prognostic indicator, as we say in medicine. I'm an emergency doctor. That things are going to start changing very quickly. So I would say this is a 3-bell warning that I would take seriously next. So I think that this is some of the symbol translation that we initially got on the proto-transcript. I just mentioned that we have just received a new translation. And, oh, do I have it somewhere? I guess it wasn't put up here. Or Raven can find it. I don't know. So this just came in. Now, how interpretive this is, I don't know. It's an ancient language expert looking at these symbols who's a Proto-Sanskrit expert. I know Sanskrit, I don't know Proto-Sanskrit. So I can't verify, but this is what Jaime Masson has just sent us last night. When I think it's very interesting. In the beginning, the principal one, the Spirit, through the Word, brought forth the birth of races and lineages where everything was imbued with the purpose of spreading and bestowing upon the sun, the sky, the radiance, the light of the universe, and the realm of the 7 worlds, the planets and the gods. Then came the lunar phases, the harvests and the sowing. The land was secured and cultures were formed, governed by the 2 principal movements, each with its own direction. It was then that abundance, teaching, and knowledge were bestowed. This was manifested from the highest, the most sublime, and the perfect. It was then that the vortex was created with a great roar. Likewise, the wheel of time, the astronomical wheel, was created, manifesting in the cycles of the earth. Afterward, the absolute and highest draws nearer for the manifestation of good and the generation of virtues, respect for the sacred, surrender to truth, and the expression of spiritual strength and heroism through harmony and perfect synchronicity. Next. Then the residence of the 30 gods is established. Having done this, Indra's great ship, commanded by the god of the atmosphere and the sky, moved freely with a great roar, for he had charged the great solar warrior with ending evil on earth. Finally, after the ship departed, it left a warning of danger, the shattering of worlds by atomic disasters, solar explosions, or destruction, where everything could end due to our decisions and our responsibility, forever destroying the great life essence, the breath and the lifeblood of creation. Is that where it ends? Yeah. Now, meditate on that for a moment. And it's very interesting because, if you look at the Vedas and even the Bhagavad Gita, there are mentions of things like vimanas. There are these flying things that we're seeing. And there's a lot of this in various mythologies. Now, to the extent that this may be an accurate translation of the Proto-Sanskrit, again, I can't say it is or isn't, but it tracks with what I'm sensing, and that is this hearken from a time when the world was very primitive, a great event happened, there was an intervention and contact that happened that was interstellar, extraterrestrial, multidimensional, because it's all part of one. And then we're now at this time where it's going to happen again, right? So, and we know this, all you know this, you know, things are not going to stay the way they are. And the fact that this is now gotten activated, to me indicates that we should quicken our efforts to lay the foundation for the transformation from the current state of the world. It mentions atomic disasters, right? We have our national security structure tilting towards going to DEFCON 1 to fight nuclear wars on two fronts, as you know. You may not know, but we are. And there's a whole lot of developments that would track with this, both in the geopolitical sphere, but also the geophysical sphere. For example, there's a big magnetic field disturbance over parts of South America, the Southern Atlantic, and Africa that scientists have been tracking. That's an anomaly of the magnetic field of the Earth, and it's unusual. And I don't believe that's unrelated to the activation of these boogospheres, because they seem to be under some kind of programmed sensor activation. Well, what do I mean by that? When you get in there, when we were taking the metal sample, you could see little filaments, what look like fiber optics, but not like we would run a card or a wire, but part and parcel of the material. And this is very indicative of extraterrestrial manufacturing. So when an ET object is manufactured, it isn't brought in, you know, if you took this thing apart, you know, it's all a zillion little pieces, right? No. The boogosphere is seamless. When you get into the metal, and we were very careful not to damage much of it, very tiny diamond, you know, tiny drills, what you find is that it seems to be a fully integrated item, that like a 3D printer, but it's more like a 4D printer. And the way ET manufacturing happens is that it's created within a resonant field at the 0 point baseline level of energy that's not even subatomic. It's beyond even subatomic, and it creates a field where the whole thing then materializes as a whole, right? As opposed to digging up ore and materials and fabricating the way we manufacture things. This is very different. We know that this is, let's say, absolutely diagnosis of an object being ET versus man-made. Now, the scientists in Mexico City didn't know that. I've worked for decades with people who've worked on the man-made UFOs, but also my uncle, his whole career is Northrop Grumman, but also people who've handled and studied and reverse engineered the ET ones, the non-human ones. And those objects are very different. They are very much more like this boogosphere than anything that would come out of Ford or GM or you know, Lockheed or something. So I think this would indicate that if it wasn't an ET civilization that made this, it most certainly was a civilization that had received and had mastered ET technologies. Now, which it is, I would, at this point, if I were going to vote, and had to, I would vote that it was of ET origin, completely. But it's almost irrelevant, because if it's not of ET origin, it's of ET origin by proxy of a very ancient civilization that had seamless involvement at an even technological level with the ETs. Now, what's this about the Proto-Sanskrit? When I was a kid, and I was 18, when I had this experience and I went on board, afterward, I realized that what I had learned right after my near-death experience when I was 17, 6 months earlier I died, and I had this whole experience of unity consciousness, and I'm going to take you at night through all the higher states of consciousness and in meditation so you can experience them. And that it was clear that when I heard the Sanskrit, and I was my teacher did the puja, and I got my mantra, I went, this seems awfully familiar. It was inside me already. From somewhere, from when I went out because when I died, I went out in space, back home. That's home for me. And so when I had the contact experience, I was on the craft for 4 hours or so, something like that, 3 or 4 hours. But in a state of, not like this, but in a state of deep meditation, like a mind meld with these ET civilizations. And I guess they figured, since I was a boy that had had a near-death experience and had learned the meditative state, so I could get into that state of consciousness through meditation without being dead. That's why I learned. I said, well, I'd love to get to this beautiful state of awareness without dropping dead. You know, it's like I don't have to be deathly ill on my deathbed every time I experience samadhi. So, so I decided it'd be smart to go ahead and learn meditation. And so I did. And when the contact experience happened, I immediately knew that that Sanskrit language had come from the stars. Or at least the predecessors, was maybe it's Proto-Sanskrit, had come from, and I sensed it was from out in the sector of space where Sirius and Orion, you know, the Orion constellation and Sirius, I knew it was, whether it was that specific star system, from that vector, that sector of space. I knew it intuitively. So, and those of you who've been with me for 30, 35 years know that I've always said that. And when I became a teacher of meditation, it came very natural to me, the Sanskrit, and I used to tutor other students in the Sanskrit. So it seemed to have been enfolded within me as a consequence of my near-death experience, it seems. And so this is sort of an interesting full cycle for me now that they've identified these symbols as a type of Proto-Sanskrit. I just find it very beautiful in a way, even though some of the messaging has some both hopeful and ominous components, right? But that's okay. We live in a very dynamic time, let's just say. So next. So I want to move off of that for a moment. We'll have time for some Q&A. That's the essence of where it is. Just to say, the next phase in the Bugosphere is going to be trying to, I recommended this in June, I don't know if you heard me say this to folks, is that there are, if you look at the CAT scans, there are some strange structures inside. Now, they're not well defined, but if, you know, and you get a better one if you could get a functional MRI, but you can't put a metal thing in an MRI thing and go bang, right? Have everybody had an MRI? You have to take all your metal off, right? And the thing would, you know, probably kill someone because the thing is heavy, almost 22, 23 pounds. But around that equator, there are 2 of those, it appears, 2 of those holes, those 4-millimeter portals, go all the way through. Most of them just go very, not far, and then the rest of the thickness is this thick, the skin of the Bugosphere. It's not thin, it's very heavy. That appears to go all the way through in 2 of them. So my proposal, if they would allow it, would be to go through where that resin is, get more of that material and get it further analyzed for its chemical composition. That's a test that's still pending, I think. But so we want to see what that stuff's made of, right? The very specific chemical breakdown. And then what we want to do, take that out, run some more tests on the material, reconfirm its age. We can do another carbon dating on the new material, just to be sure it's matching up with the other one. This is, you want verification scientifically. I'm very rigorous as a doctor and a scientist. So, and then go in there with a little 2-millimeter fiber optic system. Now that's very small. We'll look at what 2 millimeters, but they make them. And now this is outside my expertise. I'd have to bring someone in. Maybe Mayor Adams, he says he has people who could help us with this, New York City Mayor outgoing that I spoke with 2 days ago. And to go in there with a very high-tech fiber optic system, look in the inside and explore the structures, but with full fiber optic clarity hooked to an 8K camera, all right? That would be on a screen and being recorded. See what I want to do? So that is what I'm recommending. I think that would yield a great deal of new information about the internal structure. I don't know if a system that small would have the ability to have a teeny little pincher, you know, to get a sample, because if there's anything organic in there, that, like the resin, but it's on the sealed, this is seamless, there are no openings to this thing, the sealed interior, that might give us another indication of its age. For all we know, it's older. Perhaps it was made earlier, and this resin material around the periphery is periodically replaced. I don't know, I'm speculating. So in terms of scientific rigor, I have some things I'd like to do. Those are all to be determined. I'm just saying where I want to go with it, if that makes sense, right? And if there are any scientists here who have other ideas, I'm all ears, because we're in uncharted territory. By the way, to my knowledge, this is the first time something like this has fallen into the hands of a civilian and not had a special forces team obtain it and take it. The last night I was in Mexico City with Congressman Burleson, we got an alert from Jaime Musson that where this is being kept, the Brugosphere, is in a vault. He walked me to it. And it's in an old bank building that has multiple locks and doors and vaults. There were 2 Federale armed police that showed up that Saturday night before we left, who were trying to break in and steal it at gunpoint. And because I did an emergency alert on TikTok, we have lost our TikTok channel, because that went viral and 2 million people saw it within a few hours, and we no longer have TikTok. So anytime I put out something very critical, our social media gets taken down. Remember, all the big tech companies are run by totalitarian fascists tied into this whole criminal enterprise. All of them, every one of them. As they say, they all talk like hippies and act like Nazis. That's all you need to know about the tech industry. Okay, so, sorry. I will not mince words. I'm too old and too tired to pussyfoot around. So that's what that was. So now we have a team. I can't go too much into it, but very senior special forces intel folks that were working with us. So I handed off. I said, Jaime, get me a camera image of those faces. So through facial recognition and ran it through the system, we identified one of them as a narco-terrorist working with the federal government on behalf of this global cartel that keeps UFO secrets, runs drugs, human traffics, does abductions, creates wars. It's all integrated. It's a transnational criminal organization, largest ever. It would make the Gambinos and the mafiosi look like choir boys. And that's who runs your planet right now. Whether you like it or not, that is a fact. And we're drilling down on that with law enforcement very heavily. But that's how we got this guy identified. So we're, know he is, but he's tied into that. And remember, this is not unusual. In Mexico and other countries, and in our country, you have people who are, on the one hand, they have a badge, or they're a CI officer, or they're a ufologist, and they're actually a NOC, NOC, non-official cover. They're actually working on behalf of this criminal enterprise for specific, tactical reasons or operational reasons. We know who they are, and that's also been handed over. The people doing that in ufology have also been handed over to law enforcement, who are part of this criminal organization, and that would be almost everybody, virtually everybody. There are a few exceptions. Few exceptions. Not you, baby. You're clean. You're good to go, Paula. So that, I think, is just something to keep in mind, that there was an attempt to steal this. So, and I'm a little concerned. I said, Jaime, you've got to beef up security like tenfold around this thing. And if I go down there with another public official with a group of scientists, you're going to have to muscle up. And he did. He had good security for us, for all of us. He's excellent. He's wonderful, wonderful man. And I've known him for 30 years or more. But that's where we're going with this. So it's a very exciting development. And actually, we're working on a documentary that will be the Brugosphere activations, with the subtitle Disclosure: Past, Present, and Future, What We Know is Coming. And it's going to be all these new whistleblowers and all this. Stay tuned for that. We hope that can come out next year, maybe in the spring. We're going to have to crowdfund it and stuff, but it's in work. It's in progress. Fun, huh? Maybe we can have a showing at Gaia with it. So the 3-eye atlas, I have to address this because it comes up every nanosecond. How many of these slides are there? We have. Okay, here you go. This is the 3-eye atlas. And how many of these slides are there? I guess there, yeah. Here's something I did. Because every TV show and every network that blows up my phone and who asks about the 3-eye atlas says, it's an alien ship coming to attack us. And recently someone here said there were millions of Draco reptilians on it. What does Jack Nicholson say, and as good as it gets? Go sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here. But I love him. What a pig. Anyway. Oh my God. In real life, apparently. So I thought, okay, look, I'm getting fed up with this stuff. This Avi Loeb character at Harvard, he's of the same pedigree, if you will, of Donald Menzel. Who knows who Donald Menzel is? Raise your hand, I'm just curious. Oh, we have a lot of work. So go into the Disclosure Project Intelligence Archive, dpiarchive.com. It's terabytes of data and 35 years of research and hundreds of top secret whistleblower testimony and videotapes and images and top secret documents, thousands, all in there for you to peruse. We spent $500,000 creating it. It's free. It's for you to use. Have at it. It'd take you 2 or 3 years to get through it, but you can search it. Soon, we're paying about $20,000 to have a customized AI search capability put on it. So you could put in like Donald Menzel and all the stuff that would come up, or Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, everything that would come up. Cool, huh? So that's a work in progress. We have to have it finished by the end of the year, if we're lucky. So it's a very technically complex thing to interface with the internet and a website and a database archive, right? It's a lot of programming, which I don't understand. I don't pretend to understand. I'm a medical doctor, not a tech guy, but we're working on that. But as it is now, you can search, and there are categories. I think there are 13 categories of sections of the archive, and you can go through them. But in there, in the documents, CIA documents, there's one from the 50s that names Dr. Menzel at Harvard, who was an astrophysicist, who was on the payroll of the CIA. And this is typical of what people like Avi Loeb and others are asked to do. So you're paid, because I got a $2 billion offer in 1992 by the head of Army Intelligence. If you're high value enough, they'll give you $2 billion. What would $2 billion be in 1990 right now? It'd be a lot of money. $2 billion's a lot. $2 billion in 1992 dollars, probably $5, I don't know. So I turned it down because I'm not going to be bought by fascists. I said, no, gracias, adios, vamos, out the door you go now. But that's a serious offer too, by the way, $2 billion to corrupt me. But over time, they will find people with the right credentials to gaslight the media, the government, and you, the public, and they're on the payroll. So Avi Loeb has been making big stink about this, always with a xenophobic, alien invasion, sort of undercurrent, right? Fear, terror. That's the whole game. From 1950s to now, that's been the plan. So shorthand for you, in the 1950s it was decided that, and I have a document from the CIA written by the director of the CIA, Smith, and he said the UFO subject has great value for its, quote, psychological warfare value. This thing is a psyop. Now, And psychological warfare operations is PSYOP. I'll just shorthand it, okay? So it's simpler to say. And when Donald Menzel was doing this, literally they engaged him to be the debunker who said, oh, none of these UFOs are true. And he even engaged, it says in the CIA document, you can read it, this is an uncontested, bona fide CIA document. He would engage amateur astronomers to throw pie plates up, right? Like a metal frisbee type thing. Take a picture of it, release it, and everybody, there's a flying saucer. And then they would come out and say, no, that was a pie plate I threw up. So they could debunk it. See? Do you know this? Look it up, Donald Menzel. Dr. Donald Menzel. He's a shill for these fascists and these totalitarian super state guys. And that's true of ufology today. And so that is what happened, and Avi Loeb is asking for $1 billion from our government to create a planetary defense system against the marauding aliens that are coming. It's all about money, power, fear, control. Now, if you want to control 8 billion people and not just one country here and there through war and terror or religious demagoguery, you got to create an existential threat that ain't just another country. It's got to come from out there. And this is what Werner von Braun said to Carol Rosin back in 1974. He says the whole plan is to let this roll at a certain time, we'll roll it out and present it as an alien threat to wait. We can unite the world around a militaristic, totalitarian superstate. That's where we're headed if we're not careful. In fact, we're virtually there. And I say this as a warning only because those of us who are not, if you're not vigilant, it happens, is what Eisenhower said. Only an informed citizenry can avert this. And that means you guys, all of us. In collective consciousness and in our meditation and prayer, but also in our actions with our government leaders, which I have to do all the time. And I'm sure you all saw her at the National Press Club when we kicked off.
We have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids. And then he would repeat to me over and over, and the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat.
And so here we are. That was said 50 years ago to Carol Rosin, a dear friend of mine, and now we're at that point. So we cannot let the buffoonery of this subject overtake the truth. So this whole atlas, three-eye atlas, if we go back to that card, look at this for a moment. So it's 137,000 miles per hour. The closest star system, and this was said by Avi Loeb at one point at Harvard, well, it may have picked up our early electromagnetic signals coming from the Earth during the late 1800s, early 20th century. And then they came to get us because they saw that we had electromagnetic. So keep in mind, electromagnetic signals go at the speed of light, right? 186,000 miles per second. A light year is the distance it takes light to go at 186,000 miles every second for a whole year. Every second is 186,000 miles for a year. The closest star system, which is a red dwarf, not very viable, is Proxima Centauri. It's 2.4 light years away. Now, at 137,000 miles per hour, it would take 66,500 years for that object, loaded with Draco reptilians, nonetheless, to arrive here. Now, I'm sorry, but it's like what Foxworthy said, I can't fix stupid. Now, that comedian. To be honest with you, it's appalling that an academic at Harvard could put forth such a theory without being able to bring out these calculations I did on here. Huh? Yeah, right. I'm not a PhD astrophysicist at Harvard. Ooh, we're so impressed. No, we're not impressed. Frankly, it's time for us to start calling out this buffoonery for what it is. It is fear-mongering. It is sowing the seeds of, and this is what happened with the drones last year. And I've said this to the White House and congressional people. That was a psyop because we had some high-value people who were going to release the definitive videos and documents from the crash retrieval operations out west. But they got cold feet and were stood down and threatened. I also learned that there had been a meeting in a SCIF, a secure compartment information facility, where the head of the wet works for one of these aerospace corporations was openly talking about killing them and their families. So that didn't happen. Now that's also been turned over to law enforcement. They're fully aware of what happened with that. Because you all heard me say this is supposed to come out before the inauguration, and that's what they were going to do. It didn't, and here's why. Thuggery, more thuggery. Now, I get threats all the time. I just say, buzz off. Actually, I don't say buzz off. I say something else. But that's me, because I'm just that kind of person. Nice until not nice, and then I'm going to run you right over. But I think that I'm certainly not going to put up with threats. I've been receiving those since 1991. And I think the people who do want to come forward, this is why we need to protect them. And this is also why they need to have federal law enforcement interrogate them and compel them to produce all this information, which they have. And these are people in my team I know very well. Mr. Herrera knows who some of these people are. And he's gotten embedded with them, with me. So we're working very hard to get that done. But in the meanwhile, there's this sort of open field for the charlatans and the disinformation operatives to scare everyone and prepare people to believe there is this existential threat coming from space. So why? So we give up our freedoms, we give up our peace, we give up our rights, and we become a vassal states of a global super system, not based on universal peace, which we're advocating for, and the oneness of humanity and the oneness of life in the universe, but in fear and war. Diametrically opposite of what the Disclosure Project and the CE5 Contact Ambassador Program is for. But this has been a 70-year plan, and we didn't start this program till 35 years ago in 1990, so we're behind the curve, but you guys can make the difference. I believe that individuals working together can overwhelm the most evil forces on Earth, right? And that's what we have to do. That's it. So next. Yeah. Whoop. So I like this. I blacked out some of this information. I know it's hard for you to read, but if you look in our archive, but also you can get the new briefing document. For the first time in 30 years, or 32 years since I briefed the CI director in the Clinton administration, we have published the president's briefing document. You can get it. I presume you all have the QR code for that. If not, they can get it to you. It's on our website, drstevengreer.com. It has some information redacted, obviously, if there are names of assets that have to be protected and some specific tactical plans, meaning plans for a strike team to take down these illegal black sites around the world, both U.S. and OCONUS, outside continental United States. That plan has been developed, and the assets who can do it have been briefed by me and our team, and that is ready to, as soon as someone hits the go button, they'll go. Okay? It is all ready, but it has to get a go at the level of the president. So that's where that is, but this is something that just shows what the myths have been, right? And the myths are obvious. Most of what you have learned in retail internet-based ufology. So for example, there are the good and the bad aliens who are warring in space. Okay? Shall we unpack that a little bit? Now, I hate to sound Spockian, but does everyone know what a thermonuclear weapon is? A hydrogen bomb, right? So even with that level of technology, which is circa 1952, a full exchange of a thermonuclear war would leave the entire Earth uninhabitable and would be an extinction level event, right? Now let's extrapolate civilizations that are interstellar and transdimensional. I call it TDIS, transdimensional interstellar. This means that they can go from one star system to another non-linearly by traversing various dimensions at beyond the speed of light, because they drop out of linear space-time, like a quantum entanglement or teleportation, but on a macro scale, the whole craft and everyone on it. Now, that level of technological capability that's at that foundational level of space-time matter, that capability weaponized creates a quantum entangled weapon that would, one exchange targeting a planet would terminate the planet, turn it into a mist floating through space. So the idea that you're going to get out of your solar system and be cowboys and Indians, boom, 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 boom. Great movies, sells a lot of tickets to things like this, sells a lot of books, makes Hollywood rich, billions and billions on Independence Day and Star Wars and Star Trek and boom, 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 boom. Horseshit. So the problem with it is it's devoid of any scientific acuity or even common sense. You're not going to be able to behave that way and be interstellar. If you're of that consciousness and are at that level of social and spiritual primitiveness, which most humans are, and our planet is, unfortunately, you're at a level 1, so you're at a level 0 civilization. We're going to go through this weekend. Meaning that's what Michikaku is over level 0, which means we're not at peace, we're cannibalizing our planet, we don't have a stable high-tech society that's living in harmony with Gaia, and that's a level 0. Now we need to get to a level 2, 3, 4, 5 very quickly. We'll go through these and how we get there. But it's important for you to understand that so much of the mythology of ufology was created through the psychological warfare division of the CIA, starting in the 50s. And that includes animal mutilations, abductions. These are all human programs. The threats from outer space, the myth of the good and the bad alien. You also notice that the good aliens always look like they're from Norway. They're white and have blonde hair, nice breasts. Right? Right? Look at the mythology. It's interstellar racism. It's speciesism. It's an anthropocentric projection of our own racist roots onto this subject. And it's been exploited by psychological warfare experts and in linguistics at the CIA, and they are masters of it. And almost everyone has bought it hook, line, and sinker. Dangerous, extremely dangerous. Because this is how you end up in an interplanetary war. This is how you end up in an end of the world situation, an eschatology is the study of how the world would end. This is how you end up without a planet. So this is serious stuff, and people have to begin to be rational and operate on a higher spiritual and intellectual level, or we are done, my friends. And I'm not talking in 30, 50 years, I mean in 6 to 24 months. It's a very short timeline we're looking at now. So all of these are, these are all the premises of it all. You have, there's the alien hybrid experiments, and then, the whole things about aliens. I want to talk about this. The aliens are demons and agents of Satan. And, the things that just on and on and on. And we break it down who the primary purveyors are. I blacked it out. But this was for the president and his national security team and members of Congress. So, because they don't know anything. The problem is you think, no. I mean, they're starting at, is there such a thing as a UFO? I go, yeah. Okay, so So you're starting there. But as soon as they Google the subject, 99% of everything you Google on the subject is pre-positioned disinformation. And my stuff keeps getting put down in the search engines or taken out completely, because we just have our platform, TikTok, eliminated, right? So if you're actually speaking the truth, you get relegated and banned. If you're telling the myths, you're going to be on 60 Minutes, like Louis Elizondo, right? So, and that is a fact, you know, because the truth is dangerous to this group. It's very dangerous to this group, and they have the power. They control the corporations, they control the media, all of it. So BlackRock is a CIA asset that controls much of this, by the way. Yeah, it's the biggest multi-trillion-dollar asset manager in the world. But sad to say. So these have to be put to bed. If you're going to have a serious conversation at a national security and law enforcement level and governance, not here only, but overseas as well, because I'm doing this globally. So it's a singularly daunting task, because you have to take someone from do UFOs exist to this very advanced information, and then unpack all the embedded disinformation that gets attached to it. Now, the best way for disinformation to work is to attach it to truth. So I liken this to the poison pill phenomenon. That, you know, the outside of it is sweet and looks yummy, inside is your kill, is the disinformation embedded. And that is how they operate. And they have key people with credentials, academic, national security, military, who are corrupted, frankly, and who then purvey this. This is with Avi Loeb doing it, Donald Menzel did it, Carl Sagan did it. Two of Carl Sagan's best friends were on my team, George Fennell and James Mullaney, very famous astronomers. And they witnessed him being purchased by the intelligence community to say what he said about UFOs. And they did it by bribing him and blackmailing him. So almost all of us get we get blackmailed and threatened, and then we also get an inducement, so a carrot and a stick. And what happened to poor Carl Sagan is that they had found some improprieties in his PhD thesis and academic work, and they said, you're going to either be an operative for us, or you're going to be a janitor at Cornell. You want to be a janitor, or you want to be rich and famous? Now you choose. That's how it works. Now, I only know that everything I'm telling you is based on firsthand knowledge, not Googling conspiracy theories off the internet. And I think it's important for you to understand, as we come out of childhood's end here on this subject, how seriously embedded and brainwashed the populace is on this subject, to be oriented towards war and conflict with non-human intelligence. So, next. So we have over 750 military and corporate and government whistleblowers, and we have 150 plus black sites where these operations have taken place, and some that are currently. There is a top tier of them. These have all been handed over to federal law enforcement and to the White House and Congress. It is in the archive. If you want to look at each one of these and study them, all you have to do is go to that section of the archive. I did this in part because everyone thinks I'm going to drop dead soon. So they'll have to take over. God bless you. Next. And here's a map of them. Now, when you look at this, some of these are incidental facilities. In other words, an event happened or a craft was downed and they had to build a underground skiff, like in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It's not a primary site like the Dugway Proving Grounds or Edwards Air Force Space Complex or Wright-Patterson or the Nellis Air Force Base or the Nevada Test Range, but there's assets there. So based on debriefing hundreds of these whistleblowers, I have accumulated from whoever had a compartmented clearance to any of them, we would take that information, reference it, and created this, right? So this is a great tactical value to national security and to law enforcement and to the Pentagon, Because believe it or not, the majority of people in the Pentagon, CIA don't know about this subject. It's highly compartmented. The presidents certainly don't have full information, and Congress less so. The only exceptions are the people who are corrupt parties to this, who are actually a NOC, a non-official cover. So by day, they're a congressman. In reality, they're on the payroll of this cabal. Okay? That's how it works. And but this is a very useful tool. Next. And it goes global. Now, I will admit that our knowledge of OCONUS outside the United States is what's called military. OCONUS is much thinner than U.S. So, but we do have some assets that have provided details of places around the world. I'd say of all these, one of the most important ones is down there in Pine Gap in the center of Australia. On the bottom right, you'll see. And I did meet with the Minister of Defense of Australia some years ago. It was the year Sirius came out, you know, the movie Sirius, in 2013. And he had no knowledge of operations dealing with the UFOs in Pine Gap, but we did. And I have people that I've debriefed who've worked there. There's a big facility underground there where they're manufacturing the aliens. You know what you folks call aliens? The grays and the little things and the creepy things. We're making them. I know one of the physicists who worked in there. They're nanobiotechnology, life forms. Some of them are just robotic ones, but the really cool ones are biological, and they have a neural cortex, but they have integrated circuits in them. And those are man-made. The Dulce complex is also another one where they're making those. And they fool anyone. I mean, 100% of folks would be thinking it's a real extraterrestrial when it isn't. So whatever you think we have technologically, multiply 1,000-fold, and that's what we're going to unpack this weekend, because you need to know what we humans have, but if they're in the hands of some very dark folks who can stage every manner of frightening thing. You know, so think of the global terror of 9/11 or the global terror of COVID times 1,000. That's what they're capable of, and that people call a false flag. Some people call it Project Bluebeam. I haven't been read into that particular code word program. I know other programs, and I know what their technologies are. We know the full scale of the technologies, which some people don't want to hear, but I think you need to know what they are, and we're going to go through those. Next. Now this is about 2 years ago, almost exactly. I was asked to go out and meet with a covert team of operators at these black sites out in the Mojave Desert. So the Edwards complex, Edwards Air Force Base out in the high desert, is in a big, they're dry lake beds. That's where Gordon Cooper had to film the UFO that landed. And I knew Gordon. He and I did a presentation in DC together years ago. And so this man had reached out to me a few years ago, who was a operator, Delta Force guy, but operating as a NOC. He was actually Joint Special Operations Command out of Fort Bragg, but he was a non-official cover as a contractor for aerospace companies. This particular facility you're looking at is the Lockheed Skunk Works test range. And Mr. Herrera has also been there in this same gentleman's chopper, I believe. As have some other people I pulled in who are special forces guys who are working with us. Now, what you're looking at here on the right is the entry, one of the entry points where you go underground. And these are where they're testing the man-made UFOs. So you have circular ones, spheres, discs, octagons. These are made by the Lockheed Skunk Works. They're anti-gravity. They can go from hover to over the horizon like a spark off a flying wheel in 1 or 2 seconds. Man-made. Now, the president and the national security teams in Congress, when I first started meeting with those folks, had no knowledge of this. None. Now they do. So they're all having, excuse my language, the special forces guys talk like this, they're all having an oh shit moment right now in the last year or so, because they're really realizing what I've been saying for 30 years. I knew about this place 30 years ago. It's true. But it means it's the end of the world as they know it, in terms of what they think the national security threats are. And so this facility, on the left, you'll see what looks like a triangle. That's not, has a couple purposes. It's also an elevator that can go down and craft can come up, because everything's underground. It's like very complex underground facility. And when they come up, and they'll be placed at different distances from these electromagnetic pulse generators and other directional energy weapons to hit them to see if they're hardened and ready to go out and be operational. Now, these are human craft. Do you have another? It shows, yeah, look at the creepy things. Then that looked like a menacing thing on the right. Now, I took these when I was flying in on the chopper, so I was in the left-hand seat. The pilot, the operator was in the right, and then I had a Special Forces senior guy in the back. And about 2 weeks after this, I was almost killed, as you know, in a terrible accident, because I gave this to the Senate Intelligence Committee, and there were people not happy about that. I did it anyway. Do it anyway. Don't care about that. Do the right thing regardless. So these are also used to target and down extraterrestrial vehicles. So I was told by these operators that 1 or 2 of the ET craft are downed every year at each of these sites. I'm going to show another one in a minute. So this is the Lockheed range, test range, RCS, and then there's the Tejon Northrop Grumman, and T-E-J-O-N, to the north. So if you can visualize, Edwards would be here. To the south, out here is the Lockheed Skunk Works range, and up here, going north, would be the Northrop Grumman Tejon range. So we've mapped out all these. And this has all been handed off in granular detail, up to and including the entry points. Where do you go in? Now, what's under there? Well, we know what's under there. So just remember one thing. Nothing important is on the surface of the Earth. It's under the Earth or it's in space. Even if there's something important on the surface, it has a redundancy subterranean. And these are called STIFs or DUMs, subterranean facilities or deep underground military bases. And we have a whole map of those. We know the corporations that have been building them and where they're keeping in the vault those plans. So you have Bechtel Corporation and you have HIT Construction and a few others. The way they're built, we have this in our archive, you'll see, is in the 1960s they came up and patented a nuclear-powered tunneling machine, huge, and it would create such heat that it would go all through bedrock and turn it to glass. The really beautiful glassified rock, tunnels, huge, and rooms. And it moves at a certain speed. So and it can seal off water and this sort of thing. So that has been used since at least the 60s, where they moved away from just shovels and grinding something out, right, to a nuclear. And of course, that ain't nice, because if you're going under somebody's house or out in a remote area but crossing a town deep underneath, you got a nuclear thing under there, right? This is why it's so secret. They don't want the public to know they're using this. But I know who's using it, where they've used it, and what they built. And these are really key facilities that are all through the West, all over the United States, and other countries. But that technology is known, and we actually have the patent for that machine that we were able to obtain. That was sequestered and then has been used in these covert programs. So remember that when you go to these places, you're going to see very little on the surface. Everything important's underneath. Now, the reason that's important tactically, if you're going to stand up a strike team to stop these murderous things from happening, because they are not only killing ETs, they're killing humans. So one of the things we learned, and the operator, this Special Forces guy, wept as he said this to us, is that if they put up a temporary flight restriction over that area and a civilian aircraft doesn't notice or just goes in it, they take that civilian aircraft down. And it wouldn't be a jet line, it would be like a Learjet or a King Air or a private Cessna or a private plane. They then take the remains, they call them biologicals, the human remains, and the craft and incinerate or turn it through some process into powder, and there's no trace. And then through a cutout, they issue a missing person report that someone vanished in flight. So if you look up all the vanished aircraft and people, not all of them, some just crash in remote areas, but the ones near anything like this, and we're mapping those, the FAA, I met with a member of Congress who deals with the FAA. I said, this is a serious thing. So I tell everyone if it's a private pilot, you see a TFR up around an area that has a military significance, you go way around, go 50 miles around. Because sometimes, even when if you don't cross into it, the beam, this electromagnetic pulse beam that hits the ET craft will go outside, bigger than they thought. It's not that precise, and it'll hit a totally innocent aircraft. So now we're talking mass murder. Many people have been murdered, and this has also been handed over to law enforcement. All right. Next. Y'all glad you came yet? So, now look, we could go on and on with this. I think one of the things you want to understand is that when we're dealing with this, we have to at the same time pivot to, you have to uncover this rot, and you have to deal with it head on. Nice thing about being a trauma and emergency doctor, whatever came in, I dealt with it. You know, my whole life, that's how I am. It's very difficult because you have, I call it, I've found with many officials in the government, they have disclosure PTSD. It's traumatic. And when this goes out of theoretical discussions to something this real, and with a group of people that have way more power than the constitutional government of this or any other country because of the technology they possess. So I want to we don't have about 8 minutes left, but I want you to just think about this. You're the key member of Congress's oversight committees and Senate Intelligence and whatnot, or you're the president and the National Security Advisor, Director of National Intelligence, whatever, FBI Director. This lands on your desk, courtesy of yours truly. Proven, though, with a team of people who are now Special Forces guys that we are sending out and that are confirming and bringing in more and more assets and more confirmation of all this. What are you going to do, right? So one of the problems is holding that together psychologically so that there can be a plan of action and you can do something about it. I know that there are some key people who have backed off because they're afraid of them and their families being killed. If I said the name, you would know the name. Key people. And so that's a big problem, you know. It's well known that both Robert Kennedy and President Kennedy, Jack Kennedy, were killed over this issue because they were pushing on it. So I think that one of the things that happens, and this is true also in other countries, I recently was over on the other side of the pond, and I was in Great Britain, and I learned that there was a prime minister, who I won't name, but I know who he is, who, when he was starting to dig into this, they threatened to kill him and his entire family and children if he didn't back off. True. So now that thuggery is kind of what runs things. I know the first time, about 4 years ago almost, I was asked to go into the Senate Intelligence Committee to brief the senior investigator, be the equivalent of a 3-star general if he was still in the military, on behalf. He held the portfolio overseeing CIA, NSA, NRO, and he was the point person for the Senate Intelligence Committee to drill down on this, right? Well, I go in there, and of course you're in a skiff, secure compartment information, so you give up all your electronics and all that. And it was we planned it to do it on a Sunday, so there'd be very few people around because I'm recognizable. Unfortunately, this is why I can't go many places. I need a costume artist to make me up as I could be in drag, like in the Birdcage with Gene Hackman. No, I'm just kidding. Hideous, huh? I don't think I'd be a very good drag queen. But hey, how you doing? Anyway, we have fun. So If you don't have fun, you're going to eat your gun. That's it. That's true with what I'm doing. So if I go a little like that, it's because that's my compensation mechanism, to have fun and laugh. But it was soul shaking. And I can't say who he is, but he answered directly to the chairs of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. So he said, "What do you have?" I said, "We have everything." He said, "What do you mean everything?" I said, "We have almost 1,000 whistleblowers. We know where all the black sites are. We know all the companies doing this. We can give you the list. We know where their plants are, their facilities are. We know where many of the underground access points are." He said, "What underground access points?" He didn't know there were underground bases. All right? So someone even at that level, and you can take that to the executive branch and the White House and national security, that's where they are. You cannot assume they know anything about this of any consequence. And so what we have to do compassionately is to bring them from where their knowledge is, neutralize the false mythologies that we had up there, because that's a lot of junk that they would just Google. If you Google it, it's rubbish. If it's in Wikipedia, it's rubbish. It's all rubbish. If it's on this subject, it's a completely falsified information. And sanitized, absolute fact. I hate to disabuse you of your love affair with your digital devices. But an AI will do nothing but put that supercharged, aggregate more disinformation together. Garbage in, garbage out, right? So at any rate, that's why we want our whole archive AI digitized. So then you can find everything. First-hand stuff, right? Everything I put out there is from direct knowledge. All right, direct, firsthand, with people who corroborate it in military and corporate national security. However, if you look at this whole procedure, you have to then start at zero pretty much with every member of Congress, every president's national security staff, the whole changing of the guard that happens every 2 to 4 years, right? Which is daunting. And I've been doing this since I briefed the CIA director for Bill Clinton in December 1993. So it's 32 years of this. Press, it's like rewind, press, play, rewind, play. But it's evolved. So we have more and more information. And in Mr. Clinton's, President Clinton's defense, we did learn from these operators out west that one of them had been part of Team Red. Team Red was Clinton's attempt to stand up a strike team to get this Team Black, the illegal programs on UFOs, under control. And of course, Team Blue, it was just the regular military. But Team Red was either all killed or they were, the ones that survived were brought into Team Black. But now, 30 years later, they're defecting over. We've created enough of a pathway through law enforcement and protection. We also have in place the ability to hand them also, if they've been involved in direct criminal activity, to get immunity, all right? So anyone out listening who is or knows someone who is in that status, they should talk to me privately, because we can do that. And then, you have to then create a plan of action. Okay, once you know all this, now what, right? And that's the hard part, because it's a very steep hill to climb to master all the knowledge of this and the detail of it and the complexity, Byzantine. What's true, what isn't, and all of that. Oops, I hit my... And then, how do you then fix the problem? Well, you got to fix it on a number of levels. So information is one thing, but information isn't going to stand down the criminal enterprises that are trafficking in children, abducting people. And remember, Jacques Vallée himself, in a 1992 book, admitted that he had a CIA document that stated point blank that the agency was committing alien abductions as a psychological warfare operation against peasants in Brazil and Argentina. This is a fact, and it's still going on. Did you hear about was it Peru, where the thing went around and looked like a skateboard and ripped off the faces? That was all human tech. We know the people who did it, the PSYOP, around the time Grush and other people were coming out with stuff. So you just have to, we're not going to be able to unpack, we'll unpack a lot of this weekend, what the capabilities are, but what you need to look for. what's real and what isn't. The real ETs, they'd be closer to Christ and Gandhi to that. They have no interest in committing those sort of crimes. They are intent on protecting themselves from us and protecting the earth if they can in a long-term way. But there are only a few conditions where they'll intervene, and we'll talk about those conditions later, all right? So thank you very much. We'll see you. We have a little break here, I think. 30 minutes, is it? All right, thank you.
Thank you for joining our free Gaia Plus session. We're honored to share this moment of transformation with you. To continue your journey and access the full event, plus hundreds of exclusive workshops, documentaries, and original series, join the Gaia Plus community today. Expand your consciousness.
The moment you start feeling abundant, you're generating wealth.
Our work here is to become conscious.
A global community based in higher states of consciousness.
Healing can happen that fast.
New discoveries are now confirming what we find in some of our most ancient and spiritual traditions.
Stuff does just keep on getting older.
That's one of the beautiful things about Gaia Plus is that you're going to find people that resonate